Smoke and ashes drifted across the shattered wasteland under a blood-red sky. Leon stumbled forward into the massive crater, his ragged uniform torn and soaked in sweat. He remembered the mocking laughter of his peers at the Royal Academy who called him worthless trash. No matter how hard he practiced, his magical energy score had remained the absolute lowest in the class. His instructors had openly advised him to give up on his dreams of becoming a knight. But a strange, resonant pulse from the center of the destruction drew him further downward. There, embedded deep within a crystalline altar of rock, rested an ancient, magnificent broadsword. Pulsing concentric rings of pure white energy rippled across the ground from the blade's crossguard. Leon shielded his eyes as the fierce, divine wind threatened to blow him away completely. He knew that staying here was dangerous, but he had absolutely nothing left to lose. Taking a deep breath, he forced his trembling legs to step into the core of the energy field. Instantly, a violent shockwave tore through his body and cracked the earth beneath his boots. Leon screamed in agony but refused to take a single step backward from the altar. He extended his scarred right hand toward the brilliant, blinding hilt of the sacred sword. The moment his fingers wrapped around the cold leather grip, the entire world went completely silent. A massive pillar of azure flame erupted from the ground and shot directly into the dark clouds above. An ancient, overwhelming consciousness flooded straight into Leon's mind like a tidal wave. "Who dares to disturb the eternal slumber of the great hero Elcid?" a booming voice echoed. Leon felt his knees buckle under the sheer physical weight of the spirit's presence. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to look up at the massive, glowing entity. "I'm Leon, and I need the power to shatter my destiny," he shouted back through the pain. The spectral figure of Elcid narrowed its glowing eyes, evaluating the weak boy before him. "Your body is frail, your mana channels are blocked, and your spirit is deeply fractured," Elcid observed coldly. Leon refused to let another person tell him that he was inherently inadequate. Pure magical energy surged backward from the blade, burning through the flesh of his palms. "I don't care if I break, I will pull this sword out," he roared as his vision blurred. The spirit of the ancient Swordmaster smiled faintly at the boy's unexpected, reckless conviction. "Very well, let us see if your soul can survive the weight of a true master," Elcid declared. A blinding flash enveloped the entire crater as the sword's seal finally cracked completely open. Leon felt a searing, icy sensation manifest directly inside his chest cavity. The 7 stars engraved on the sword's blade began to glow one by one with a brilliant blue light. With a final, agonizing gasp, Leon fell to his knees, firmly holding the completely unsheathed weapon. The heavy silence of the wasteland returned, but his internal world was now permanently altered. "Our bond is formed, but you are far too weak to utilize even a fraction of my power," Elcid's voice spoke within his mind. Leon gripped the handle tighter, feeling a thin, steady thread of foreign energy now flowing through his veins. He knew this was merely the start of a long, incredibly grueling path to redemption. Far in the distance, a dark, corruption-infused cloud began to gather over the spires of the Royal Academy. "An ancient heretical evil is stirring, and we must prepare your body immediately," Elcid warned with sudden gravity. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the entire wasteland, and a massive, glowing red eye opened within the dark clouds. Leon stared in horror as a deafening, unearthly roar echoed across the sky, realizing his trial had already begun. The deafening roar tore through the clearing, shattering the remaining silence of the mystical crater. Leon instinctively dropped his center of gravity as the sheer atmospheric pressure weighed heavily on his chest. Suddenly, a radiant blue light erupted from the runes etched into the ancient blade's hilt. A translucent, ethereal figure materialized from the glowing energy, floating gracefully just above the weapon. The spirit introduced himself as Elcid, the legendary master whose soul resided within the 7-star sword. Elcid glanced at Leon's trembling hands and openly scoffed at the boy's pathetic physical state. He declared that if Leon wished to survive the night, he must immediately submit to a grueling conditioning regimen. Leon was forced to sprint up the near-vertical rocky slopes while carrying the impossibly heavy sacred sword on his back. His muscles screamed in agony as the sword's latent weight seemed to increase exponentially with every step. Elcid floated alongside him, criticizing his posture and demanding absolute perfection in his stride. Whenever Leon slowed down, a sharp spark of magical energy would shock his legs, forcing him forward. Gritting his teeth, the young student thought of the elite peers who had constantly mocked his low standing at the Royal Academy. He refused to remain the Academy's trash any longer, fueling his flagging body with pure indignation. After hours of continuous running, Elcid commanded him to stop and adopt a rigid, low stance. The spirit explained that physical strength alone was useless without advanced perception on the battlefield. Suddenly, Elcid waved his hand, conjuring dozens of glowing, floating magical spheres in the air around them. Leon was told to track the erratic movements of every single orb without moving his head. The glowing spheres began to zip through the darkness at blinding speeds, crisscrossing each other seamlessly. A sudden sharp ache throbbed behind Leon's eyes as he tried desperately to process the chaotic visual information. Elcid barked that a true Swordmaster sees the intent of the wind before the blade is even swung. The spirit then infused a small droplet of his own ancient soul essence directly into Leon's forehead. Leon gasped as a searing, icy sensation flooded his optical nerves, forcing his vision to forcefully expand. The world around him transformed instantly into a monochromatic grid of raw, flowing magical energy pathways. He could suddenly perceive the exact trajectories of the floating spheres a fraction of a second before they actually moved. With his newly awakened vision, Leon fluidly sidestepped 3 spheres that suddenly dove straight toward his chest. He drew the Sevenstar sword in a smooth arc, perfectly deflecting the remaining orbs with effortless precision. Elcid gave a rare, approving nod, acknowledging that the boy's talent was far greater than he originally anticipated. The intense sensory overload instantly took its toll, causing Leon to collapse to his knees, panting heavily. Dawn slowly broke over the horizon, painting the sky in pale shades of orange and violet. Elcid warned him that his conditioning was far from complete, as true battlefield mastery required unbreakable muscle memory. Leon stood up, sheathed the heavy sacred blade, and began his long walk back to the academy dormitories. Every muscle in his body throbbed with a dull ache, yet he felt a strange, profound sense of core stability. As he entered the main courtyard, a loud, obnoxious laugh echoed from the grand fountain area. It was his longtime blonde rival, an elite noble student who took immense pleasure in tormenting the weak. The rival loudly mocked Leon's disheveled clothing and dirt-covered face in front of a gathering crowd. Instead of shrinking back in shame as he usually did, Leon simply stared back with absolute, unbothered stillness. Using his newly trained vision, Leon casually analyzed the rival's sloppy posture and highly unbalanced stance. Angered by Leon's sudden lack of fear, the blonde noble threw down a white silk gauntlet onto the stone tiles. He demanded a formal public duel to permanently expel the academy's trash from the campus once and for all. Leon slowly stepped forward, picked up the gauntlet, and looked straight into his rival's arrogant eyes. Deep within his mind, the voice of Elcid chuckled softly, eagerly anticipating the impending slaughter. Suddenly, the ground beneath the courtyard violently shuddered as a dark, ominous aura flared briefly from the academy basement. The surrounding students panicked as the brief spike of heretical energy made the air feel suffocatingly heavy. Leon's specialized vision forcefully locked onto the source of the dark energy pulsating deep below the school. He realized with absolute certainty that this upcoming duel was no longer his only life or death problem. The lingering warning from his training echoed painfully in Leon's mind as the morning sun broke over the academy grounds. He adjusted his grip on the training sword, feeling the subtle, rhythmic pulse of Elcid's dormant spirit within the hilt. A sharp, mocking laugh shattered the quiet atmosphere of the courtyard. Standard, the top-ranked noble student, stepped forward with a group of sneering sycophants trailing closely behind him. His perfectly styled blonde hair caught the light as he stared down his nose at Leon. He pointed a gleaming rapier directly at Leon's chest, his voice dripping with utter disdain. The arrogant blonde demanded a formal duel to permanently expel the academy's worst trash from the campus. Leon did not flinch, his eyes narrowing as he recalled the brutal conditioning he had just survived. He accepted the challenge without a single shred of hesitation, stepping into the center of the designated dueling ring. A large crowd of whispering students quickly gathered around the perimeter, eager to see the predictable downfall of a failure. Standard took his stance, his movements fluid and perfectly refined by years of elite tutoring. Leon lowered his center of gravity, applying the special vision training to track the subtle shifts in his opponent's balance. The referee raised his hand and dropped it quickly, signaling the immediate start of the combat. Standard lunged forward like a streak of lightning, his rapier blurring through the air with deadly precision. Thanks to his expanded perception, Leon saw the trajectory of the tip as if it were moving through water. The noble's thrust met nothing but empty air, causing his eyes to widen in brief shock. Leon immediately countered with a heavy upward slash, utilizing his newly conditioned physical strength. Standard barely managed to deflect the blow, the heavy impact vibrating violently up his arm. Annoyed by the unexpected resistance, the blonde rival unleashed a flurry of rapid magical thrusts. Multiple superficial cuts opened across Leon's arms as he struggled to dodge the magical barrage. Blood dripped onto the stone floor, but Leon refused to back down even a single step. Standard sneered openly, mocking Leon's pathetic attempts to survive against a true elite. Inside Leon's mind, the cold, steady voice of Elcid offered a crucial piece of tactical advice. He realized he needed to stop reacting to the weapon and start predicting the flow of the opponent's mana. When he opened his eyes, the world seemed to slow down as faint blue trails of energy became visible around the noble. Standard charged again, channeling a massive amount of yellow wind magic into a final, decisive strike. Instead of retreating, Leon stepped directly into the path of the devastating magical storm. The spectators gasped loudly, fully expecting the reckless failure to be completely torn apart. Using his conditioned endurance, Leon deflected the core of the wind pressure with the flat of his blade. He utilized the precise moment of impact to slide past the noble's overextended guard. Leon delivered a powerful, concentrated shoulder tackle directly into Standard's exposed chest. The top-ranked student tumbled violently across the rough stone, losing his perfect composure entirely. Silence blanketed the entire Colosseum as the crowd struggled to comprehend what they had just witnessed. Standard scrambled to his feet, his face red with absolute humiliation and unbridled rage. Defying all dueling regulations, the noble began chanting a forbidden high-level heretical spell. The air grew instantly cold and heavy, suffocating the spectators with an oppressive, dark aura. Leon felt the sacred sword in his hand hum violently, sensing the presence of true heretical evil nearby. Suddenly, the ground beneath the arena cracked violently, far beyond the power of a standard student spell. Screams erupted from the stands as a massive, monstrous shadow began to emerge from the ruptured earth. A sinister heretical evangelist cloaked in black appeared atop the emerging beast, locking eyes directly with Leon. Realizing his companions were trapped directly in the path of the colossal monster, Leon gripped his glowing sword with both hands. The colossal beast let out a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the ruined city square. Leon planted his boots firmly into the shattered cobblestones as a violent shockwave threatened to blow him away. Across the square, his wounded academy companions lay paralyzed with fear under the shadow of the monster's descending foot. High atop a crumbling spire, the heretical evangelist raised his hands and laughed maniacally at the impending slaughter. Deep within the hilt of the sacred sword, the ancient spirit Elcid whispered words of ultimate unlocking. Leon closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, completely tuning out the chaotic screams around him. He focused all his circulating mana into his forearms, feeling his muscle fibers tighten and burn. The Sevenstar sword responded to his resolve by radiating a pure, blinding starlight from its crossguard. "Your sacrifices will feed the ultimate dawn," the evangelist shrieked, gesturing for the beast to strike. The colossal beast brought its massive foot crashing down toward the trapped academy students. With a single explosive stride, Leon blurred across the battlefield, leaving a trail of blue sparks behind. He slid directly beneath the falling massive foot, tilting his glowing sword upward at an acute angle. A surge of pure celestial energy erupted from the blade, slicing cleanly through the monster's thick ankle. The city-devouring beast bellowed in agony as its monumental balance was completely shattered. The heretical evangelist staggered back on his ledge, his mad laughter instantly dying in his throat. Leon spun around, his uniform fluttering wildly as he locked his gaze directly onto the cultist. "Your reign of terror ends in this square," Leon muttered, his voice carrying the resonant weight of two souls. Sensing real danger, the evangelist began chanting frantically, drawing a massive sphere of dark energy together. Leon crouched low, channeling the full legacy of Elcid into the soles of his feet. He launched himself vertically into the sky, rocketed by a massive pillar of pure starlight. The evangelist hurled the massive sphere of darkness straight down at the ascending warrior. Mid-air, Leon raised the Sevenstar sword high above his head, the blade lengthening into a beam of solid light. With a mighty downward slash, he executed the first stroke of the ultimate sacred cross skill. The vertical energy wave sliced the evangelist's dark sphere completely in half, causing it to dissipate into nothingness. The evangelist screamed in terror as the remnants of his ultimate spell vanished in an instant. Without pausing, Leon stabilized his position in the air and prepared for the final horizontal stroke. "Receive the judgment of the 7 stars," Leon roared, unleashing a massive horizontal crescent of energy. The two intersecting waves formed a perfect, colossal sacred cross of light that engulfed both the tower and the evangelist. With a final agonizing cry, the heretical evangelist was completely purified and dissolved into harmless golden particles. Below them, the severed city-devouring beast began to glow with volatile, explosive red energy. Leon realized the beast's core was undergoing a massive self-destruction sequence that would level the entire province. Guided by Elcid's ancient wisdom, Leon extended his sword downward like a lightning rod as he fell. He plunged the sacred blade directly into the pulsating heart center of the colossal beast. The divine energy of the Sevenstar sword acted as a perfect sponge, absorbing the chaotic explosion directly into its steel. With a final surge of willpower, Leon redirected the absorbed cataclysm harmlessly up into the high atmosphere. The giant body of the city-devouring beast crumbled into harmless gray ash, scattered away by a gentle breeze. Leon dropped to one knee, using his heavily scuffed sword to prop up his trembling body. His academy companions rushed forward with tears of gratitude, shouting his name in absolute triumph. Within his mind, Elcid smiled warmly, knowing that the world was finally safe in the hands of a true master. Standing tall amidst his cheering friends, the once trial student Leon looked toward the horizon, ready for a peaceful future.